What's going on, Internet? This is Lambo coming to you from the nerdery, or the basement, where we do all my gaming. And this time I'm giving you another Gloomhaven 3D terrain build, Scenario 19, Forgotten Crypt, for my party's Gloomhaven campaign adventure. So, spoiler alert, if you don't want to know what's in the Forgotten Crypt, stop watching now, because I'm going to show you all the monsters, the map layout, everything I use to substitute for what is in the scenario book. I won't show you any extra minis that are not part of the base minis, so you don't have to worry about that. But if you didn't want to know what's in the actual map before playing it, then don't watch. So first of all, I'm going to show you the overhead of the real map. So that is what the scenario is supposed to look like. And then overhead shot, that is how mine came out. If you can see it all, I think you can. All right, let's get back down into the first area here, and I'll start going over some stuff. I apologize if in the background you hear this high-pitched whirring noise. That's my 3D printer, one of two that I have, going, printing more of these terrain tiles as we speak. And speaking of this terrain, the main terrain that I used in this build is Talisman Sabre Terrain. That is actually a terrain set that I co-founded with another fantastic terrain builder from the land down under. He's the Thunder from down under. He goes by Bravo on YouTube or Jay Carter on Facebook. But him and I co-founded Talisman Sabre Terrain, and this is the terrain that we make and paint. And we designed it and everything, and tested it and all sorts of stuff. So it's kind of a shameless plug, but for me, it was cool because it's actually the first time I've got to play any scenarios on the terrain that I helped make, and have been doing so for the past, 6 to 8 months. And that, for a couple reasons, but basically, this terrain is modular, so comes in these individual hexes, and they all have an opening on each side, and that's an open lock hex clip opening. Open lock is a printable scenery invention they standardized and then licensed out to anyone who wants to get an open lock license to use on their products, and we got a license for Talisman Sabre Terrain. And it uses these clips, and they clip into those openings like so. In the back, they just clip together, and so you can clip them any which way you want, and that makes the terrain very modular. You just clip in as many or as few terrain hexes as you like. All of our walls, all the floor tiles, they can all clip together. When I set up this particular board, I didn't bother to actually clip in the walls, just because I knew I was going to take it down after we played. But sometimes if I set something up for a longer time, or I want to move it, I'll clip everything together. And that's really nice, because then you can just pick up the whole board and move it, which is, if you want to save the board for later, not to take the whole thing down, that's really convenient. And since we tend to lose half of our scenarios, that makes life nice sometimes. Okay, so enough shameless plugs there. If you want to know more, go to talismansabreterrain.com. We also have a YouTube channel and a Facebook page. But anyway, other things that I used. We've got these pillars here. These are Rocket Pig Games pillars. I thought they looked really cool. They are for I think they're Gothic City set. I kickstarted the Gothic City Rocket Pig Games Kickstarter. Fantastic looking terrain. You should go check it out. But I just sliced these. They come on like a base, and I sliced them below the build plate so that I could just print them out, just have the pillar. Because the level called for 4 columns. Then what else is on here? Okay, miniature-wise, we've got my skeletons that I use for my living bones that are elites. These are Rune Wars Ryquar reanimates. They're probably their commanders or something like that. And I just, when I made them, or when I painted them, they usually come with like these antler horns, and I just clipped them off and made them bone horns instead. I wasn't digging the antler thing, but I did like the bone helmet. And so those guys are all my elite living bones. And then the Cultists, what I use for regular Cultists are Frostgrave Cultists. I think they look really cool. So neither of these miniatures styles are 3D printed. And then also, this mission is an escort mission, so this is not a miniature from the game, so there's no spoiler in that regard. This is just one I found to represent she's a caster, I think Aether is what they're called, the race. I don't know how you spell it, or pronounce it for that matter. But she goes invisible all the time and stuff. And you're escorting her throughout the whole level. Her name is Hale. And so I just found that is a Reaper Bones miniature that I had from when I kickstarted the first Reaper Bones one. And painted it up. Painted her kind of purpley, kind of like the Aether is in the Spellweaver. But then you escort her through the mission. Which actually ended up being a problem for us in our first go-around, because if you're not careful, she gets ahead of you, and she will open doors whether or not you're ready. She ended up opening one of these rooms pretty early on in our first playthrough, and just got trounced by every monster as they got their turn to activate, and we had not accounted for the fact that she might get beat up. So that caused our first party attempt to just totally fail, and that was kind of funny. Alright, moving on. So let's rotate the table, because I love being able to do that. One other thing I forgot to mention about this terrain, the reason why I haven't ever played on it before is because I started out, I was meant to talk about this just a second ago. When I started playing, if you see my earlier videos, doing Hirst Arts hexes, and that's these fantastic looking, they're plaster cast, and you glue them down on this, I just glue them down on foam core on the bottom, and make the little terrain hexes. And then I also kickstarted these high ground tiles, which were my first foray into 3D printing tiles, but the sizing is different. And so the reason I've never played on my Talisman Sabre Terrain before is because the sizing for most of the terrain that I have is the Hirst Arts standard size, which I then went and took high ground tiles and matched. Talisman Sabre Terrain is slightly smaller, and that was to match the standard size. It's just a little bit smaller, but it is smaller. And that's because the standard hexes on like Thingiverse and whatnot that were being used for typical Gloomhaven games were this standard size. I think like Robogon might have some, RB Ross. There's some really good modelers out. Mag Hex is a big one, and they offer 3D printable hexes. And so when we did our Talisman Sabre Terrain tiles, we made them that size. That way, if people wanted to mix or match, they could. Okay, sorry. Back to the level. Okay, so going into this next room, you've got the rocks. I think these are Robogon rocks. It's not the 3. It is a 3 rock in the level. I didn't have a 3 hex print, so I just combined a 2 hex and a 1 hex. Pretty sure the Robogon rocks. I will link everything in the description below. Then the living spirits. These are Zombicide. No Rest for the Wicked living spirits. I think they look really cool, so I use them for my living spirits. And then the living bones here. Those are Rune Wars reanimates. Also really cool looking living bones. And then let's just move right along into the next room. More living bones, more cultists. Okay, and let's get to this back room here. I'll slide up on the table. So in this room, right here, what I got going on is what I use for my elite living corpses and standard living corpses. So elite living corpses, I use Zombicide Black Plague Fatties. I think they make really good elites. And then these I think are just ghouls or ghasts or something they're just living Reaper Bones figures that I painted, and they make really good standard living corpses. And then I'm going to slide them out of the way, because the other cool thing I really like about the Talisman Sabre Terrain is the way we designed our traps. So this level called for the bubble looking traps, and I didn't have 3 of them painted ready to go that night. So I've thrown in these ones instead, and these are our pit traps. And I really like them because you can just pull them out, and they sink into the floor. So as you can see, they're already sunk in, providing that actual pit feel in your trap. And then you can pull it out when it's been sprung, and you can just drop your regular hex right in, just like that. And so I really like that aspect of the Talisman Sabre Terrain and how we did those traps. So moving right along into the final room, those wyverns are off of Thingiverse, and we just made a pillar hex to fit the wyvern, but I'll link where the wyvern, you can find that print that we made into our statues. And then the altar, the chests, the coins, pretty sure those are Robogons as well. And if they're not, I apologize, but I will hunt down all the links and find out where everything came from. The caskets, I don't remember where I got them. They're on Thingiverse somewhere, all 3D printed. And there's a lot of Hirst Arts bone piles in there that you can see on the sides and the boxes and barrels. Those are either Hirst Arts, or the barrels might actually be from Dungeon Saga. Just dungeon dressing I've got lying around. So anyway, let's back it up and do this kind of a 360 shot. You can see the whole level. That is Scenario 19, Forgotten Crypt. Hope you liked it. And if you are interested in Talisman Sabre Terrain, which we offer as a physical product, we don't offer the files, you can check it out, talismansabreterrain.com. Or not. You know, I understand. But this is the terrain I made, and I really like it. And hope you enjoyed this video. If you have any questions or comments, leave them below. And as always, happy gaming.